Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. Thank you for stopping by. You've got some big smiles on this WPT weekly with Jason and Tommy. I actually, Tommy, as I look at myself on Zoom here, I just texted my barber, great guy by the name. If anyone needs a phenomenal barber and a great guy in Fort Lauderdale, my man Franco, I just texted him, gonna get a nice fresh cut tomorrow in preparation for going to Churchill Downs, man, because we are Kentucky Derby bound with Sandman.
That we are. I still don't think it feels real. Really, my second derby with the West Point team, and just to have probably one of what I think a lot of people will consider one of the favorites is just it's pretty surreal. And I think as we get closer, it's going to set in more and more, especially as more people start descending upon Louisville and Churchill Downs. So it's really, really exciting. And what a day Saturday was. That was just fantastic.
Yeah, there are some good moments like seared into my heart, soul, and brain from Gulfstream Park on Saturday, having the great Tom Bell house in town and Christina. We watched the race together in the breezeway on one of the big screens, and yeah, it was pretty thrilling. I also had my imaginary, which I haven't put on Chatter yet, and Christina keeps telling me put that video on Chatter and share it with everybody. I had the Blue It pogo stick, the imaginary pogo stick. At I was jumping up and down as soon as they started to make that run, just like as they entered the far turn. It probably, in terms of me losing my mind, probably should have started even further up the backstretch when they rang Tommy that half mile of like whatever it was, 45 and one. I was so happy that Speed King went after Cornucopian and Sandman has that long sustained run, man. I mean, once he gets that head of steam, he can sustain it. Not many horses can do that.
Yeah, and I think right when I saw him make that move in the turn, I thought to myself, "Oh boy, we have an unbelievable shot." And he just ranged up outside and just like you said, that long stride. I don't think he's got a massive turn of foot where he's lightning quick. It's more of a he's going to grind you down and he's going to make you earn it because man, he just comes bearing down on these horses and coming down the lane. He got a little squirrely there, a little bit green when Jose hadn't showed him that left whip. But I still think for him to win like he did and still be a little green is just something that it's almost unbelievable. This horse, what we've seen from him is just nothing short of fantastic. And he's gonna take us to the starting gate in the Kentucky Derby, which is the dream for a lot of people in this game. That's why a lot of people do it. It's what you get out of bed every morning for, and it's just it, I'm still a little bit speechless off of that race, and I'm glad that my voice is recovered because watching it on TV here at home, I don't think my neighbors were too happy with me with
Mm.
all the screaming and yelling I was doing, but I'd say it was pretty well worth it.
Yeah, it definitely was. So we've got the last round of Derby preps coming up. And naturally, journalism, in terms of the favorites role, I think that's a role it's his to lose. If he runs as well and nearly as fast as he did, which might, in some respects, be an impossibility in the Santa Anita Derby to his last outrace against Barnes, I mean, he'll be the favorite in Louisville. But if he doesn't win or doesn't run nearly as well as he did last time out, Sandman, I think off a 99 buyer and the fact that the general consensus is he wants longer, like ten furlongs will be no problem. He could be favored depending upon what happens in the wood, the bluegrass, which is now on Tuesday. I mean, how many grade one races over the span of our lifetimes were contested on a Tuesday? You'll have Tommy a belated and somewhat delayed opening weekend at Keeneland, and it's a busy few days in Lexington for our stable. But then you've got the Santa Anita Derby as well. So we're in a great spot with Sandman. Congrats to the partners, the horse, all the connections because we own him in partnership. With St. Elias and DJ Stable, and you've also got, of course, Mark Casse, who I will say, Tom. I mean, we could spend the next half hour talking about Sandman and his progression, and uh, again, sizing up the Kentucky Derby with him going a mile and a quarter in a big field. But keeping it somewhat succinct, I do want to give Mark Casse and his team credit because Mark 10 out of 10 in terms of the job that he has done since we bought the horse last March.
Yeah, no doubt. He's just, and from day one, he's known how good of a horse he is and how he's had to treat him. And he's done that in every races in his career. And I remember towards the end of last year, the thought was maybe he needs a little bit of a break, but Mark was pretty adamant on he's only going to learn through running and racing. And I think that really came to fruition last Saturday when we saw him win a grade one. And he's such a cool horse. And he's already been back and he's made it back to Churchill. I've went and seen him a couple times now. It's hard not to. And anytime I'm over there by the Cassie barn, you'll be hard pressed not to find a camera that's not focused on him. So, and he just absolutely loves that attention, and he's ready for the spotlight. And I just can't wait. I'm already going to have a counter going down on the first Saturday in May.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. I have not enjoyed Frank Mitchell's article on Sandman and the fact that Tappet. I mean, what an OG and just a G in general Tappet is. I was thinking about him a couple of days ago, just the career that he's had as a breed shaping stallion. Flightline, of course, immediately comes to mind, but Tappet, there's still a blank space on his Hall of Fame resume as a stallion. He has yet to sire a Kentucky Derby winner. So here's to that finally getting filled in about a month, 4 weeks, give or take 4 weeks and change from now with Sandman. It was a big week though for the stable, Tommy, with Sorcerer Silver on Thursday. You're the Dale Whisperer. I mean, he absolutely blitzed the field in a Florida bred non-winners of one. Exciting prospect and yet another horse that West Point will have flying our silks on Derby Day in the Pat Day Mile.
Exactly. I think we're going to be loaded. That come Derby Day, really all Derby week. But his race, I was really, really encouraged by it, especially where he let I think it was Aerostar that kind of came up and took the lead from him momentarily, and he was able to sit right off. And I know Dale was really happy about that as well, that he made that move and just drew away, win by 7. He's such a classy horse, and really, really excited to see what he can do against Open Company. Obviously, the Pat Day Mile is not going to be an easy race, especially any graded stake on Derby Day or Derby weekend is not going to be an easy race, but it's going to be a really good litmus test for him to see where he stacks up against Open Company, specifically Kentucky breds.
Moving ahead, my friend, Keeneland, and no surprise, when I saw the forecast and it wasn't getting better or slightly even more optimistic, it looked like it was getting more dire with each passing hour. Tuesday into Wednesday, as far as your neck of the woods, like early Thursday morning, give or take, up to 8 inches of rain. Governor of Kentucky declaring a state of emergency. What I'm getting at is, wasn't a surprise to me that Keeneland rightfully and correctly opted to postpone Friday's opening day card. So now opening day will fall on Sunday. We've got Absolutely Hot and Signator in, and then Monday and Tuesday will effectively be in order those Friday and Saturday cards. So you've got a busy few days because we don't waste any time, my friend. We're coming out firing between the two turf horses in on Sunday, and again, hopefully they both get to run. Ivory and Ebony, Maui, Reagan's Wit, Fateful Lightning, Northern Invader, Seaport Lane, Home First, Coast Along, and Line of Justice. I mean, that is our Sunday through Wednesday plate of racing at Keeneland, it's pretty outrageous looking at that.
Yeah, it is. It's to be that loaded going into that opening weekend. Obviously, I guess it's now Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and we'll see entries for the next part of that week coming out starting today. Which something I thought about last night was, and when was the last time we had about a week straight of racing at a place like Keeneland? Just 7 days in a row. Obviously, with the situation of the weather, it's not very common, but it's going to be really neat to see Keeneland go and be in action nonstop for about a week straight. And I really love how we're set up going into this weekend. It really can hit the ground running, I hope, on Sunday. Obviously, a lot of that, the turf specifically, there's going to be a lot in play with how much rain is going to come in over the next couple of days here. And then also how the Keeneland track is able to drain and see how it's going to play out. So I think everyone here in the Commonwealth is going to be keeping a close eye on that. But all you can do is just wait it out and see what the forecast does, and be patiently waiting for Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. Talked to Shug late yesterday after Shug had gotten back from Dr. Eisenman's in Ocala Wednesday morning. Signature will not run if that race comes off the turf. We might, if it does come off, we might point to that Henry Clark stake that could also have Carson's run in a few weeks in Maryland. And then Dale's got to decide what he wants to do with Absolutely Hot. I don't want to get in front of our skis or talk for Dale. It doesn't strike me as the kind of horse Dad would be too keen on running on the dirt. But if the race stays on the turf and the course is to Dale's liking, maybe you take a shot with him off a very solid maiden winner last time out. In terms of the bluegrass, my friend, I mean, let's just hit it quickly. Evenly matched field. I mean, Chancellor McPatrick is hands down the most accomplished horse in the race by virtue of his wins last year and the hopeful and the champagne. I'm curious how far he wants to go. I mean, he'll try going 9 on Tuesday now for Chad. What do you make of him second off the layoff after a pretty decent try in his comeback race at Tampa Bay?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat you are, and I think both Chancellor McPatrick and River Thames are kind of up in the air for me in terms of if they're gonna want to go that far. Obviously, River Thames I thought had won the Fountain of Youth until Sovereignty came flying late to nail him. But he's a horse that, especially being by McLean's music, I'm not necessarily sure he's gonna want to go a mile and an eighth in this race, but you got to run the race to really find out. And again, it's really hard to count out a team like Todd Pledger and Irad Ortiz in any race, especially a grade one Derby prep. But another horse that I think is really going to be a wild card is last year, the 2-year-old from last year, East Avenue, who obviously won't have Tyler riding. He's sidelined with an injury, but for him, he hasn't been the same horse since that Breeders' Cup Juvenile when he kind of stumbled out of the gate, came back in the Rhythm Star, ran horrible as a huge favorite. So it'll be really interesting to see how he is going to show up in this race. Obviously, Luan Machado rode him when he broke his maiden, so it's not like he's getting a brand new jock that someone that doesn't know the horse. But for me, he's a horse that I think is kind of the wild card play in this spot,
Hmm.
able to bounce back to that Breeders' Futurity win at Keeneland. So we know that he likes Keeneland. He's able to win there. And the distance, I don't think is going to be a problem for him. It's just going to be a matter of what East Avenue is going to show up on Tuesday. And I'll be interested to see how the betting public is going to view him as well.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do? What's a fair price on him? I have not seen odds yet in terms of the morning line at Keeneland, but yeah, oof. I don't know if I'd want to take less than 6 to 1 on him. I mean, clearly the horse is sound. He's healthy. Brendan Walsh, I think the world of him, and he'd be on a list of trainers. If you were like, give me like 5 trainers that atop your wish list would be guys and gals that West Point would send a horse to or could send a horse to. Brendan would be in that top 5. I think the world of him. I really do. So he's not running a horse that isn't sound or healthy, but man, oh man, has he not looked like the same horse from those two wins to start his career. Burnham Square, meanwhile, you and Tommy B. Tommy was all over both Tommies for West Point. Loved to Pan Street on Saturday correctly in the Florida Derby. Do you give Burnham Square another look after he just didn't run all that well? Or put it this way, didn't run nearly as well as he had a few weeks prior in the Holy Bull, but he did beat Tapan Street back on the 1st of February. And for me, there does seem to be a decent amount of early speed in this race with East Avenue, Owen Almighty, and River Thames, who I don't like going 9 on that track. There's a lot of speed in this race. It could set up for Burnham Square and, of course, Chancellor McPatrick.
Yeah, and with Tapan Street, everyone was worried about how Burnham Square had run and he didn't fire in the Fountain Youth, so he was kind of up in the air. But with Tapan Street going out and winning, I think that kind of flips the script. So, like you said, it might set up for him really well with those 3 horses wanting that early lead. So, if they get hooked up almost like they did, similar to the Arkansas Derby, it's going to set up beautifully for a closer.
So we've got Statesman then as we bounce from Tuesday in Lexington. We'll head to the Big Apple. I used to love Wood Day. I still like Wood Day. It's a little different now that I no longer live in New York or work for Naira. I was, I guess, on some level, lamenting to Christina last week before the Florida Derby because that was my 9th consecutive Florida Derby, which I'm proud about as far as in person. But I had such a great streak going in person with both the Wood Memorial and the Belmont, and of course the Travers and some of those big Saratoga races, but the Wood and Belmont in particular, and that ended back in 2017. Wood Day isn't, and I'm trying to be as PC as possible with Keeneland being or having evolved into the absolute de facto spot that a lot of people point to after Gulfstream ends and Fairgrounds and post Arkansas Derby. It's almost like the races in New York. Not that they're second fiddle. They just are in a lot of respects, I think, an afterthought. That said, I'm excited about Saturday. I hope they have a good weather day because there was plenty of rain forecast when I looked. A wet track, though, as we take a shot with Statesman in the Wood, Tommy won't bother me. He's by constitution. Empire maker damn, it's a question of can he take a jump forward because he's gonna have to run significantly faster, I would surmise, to beat this field as he steps up and quote unquote faces real horses for the first time since he was a 2 year old.
Yeah, and like you said, this is going to require a pretty big step up from him in terms of a figure to really have a shot at this race. But I mean, he's earned it with the way he won his last two races at Tampa. Visually very, very impressive. So, Chug and his team had figured, you know what, let's take a shot, see what he's got, and you never know. With 100 points on the line, all these horses are vying for a spot in the starting gate of the Kentucky Derby. But the horse, to me, at least in my eyes, I think the horse to beat is the one right in the middle, right there, Captain Cook. Uh, he's just so visually impressive when he broke his maiden two back. And then I thought he ran really well in the Withers, and obviously he likes Saratoga, and he's not going to have a problem in the slop either. You can see he romped by 9, breaking his maiden up there, and he's going to get that mile and eighth again. So to me, that's the horse. If I'm looking at the race, objectively, he's the horse to beat in my eyes. But overall, I don't think it's an overly crazy strong field, but regardless, we're going to see a horse or two from this run in the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, it's a good spot to try with Statesman. And you never know this time of year. That's part of what makes it so special. Which 3 year old is going to take a big jump forward? And we all know the way Shug trains. His horses tend to almost walk up a staircase little by little. You don't get those crazy 75 to a 95 buyer. They get that incremental, like old school OG improvement. So good luck to Statesman in there. And again, I'm sure there's going to be people rolling their eyes like, oh my God, this guy likes another Rapoli horse. I was very impressed with Grande's 2 races at Gulfstream. I mean, I think most people, if you saw them, probably were. He's so smooth. I mean, he's got such an efficient, smooth stride and strikes me as the kind of horse that just wants to grind. I mean, he's got a cruising speed, but can just stay, and he's already won going 9 furlongs. But I have no issue with Captain Cook. We'll see how far the New York bred Sand Devil wants to go. I think 9 might be pushing it with him. And do you get some improvement out of Hill Road for Chad? Well, I got to think, Tommy, in his second start for Chad, second start on the year, third start in the country, is a colt by Quality Road that'll take a nice forward move, too.
Yeah, and you look at that last race, the Tampa Bay Derby with Owen Almighty and Chancellor McPatrick squaring off on Tuesday at Keeneland. If we see a step up from him, I think those two will be huge benefactors of that come Tuesday.
Excellent. So a lot of racing to be had. It feels good coming off. Let me stop my little share here. Stop that. Let
There
me
you
make
are.
sure I'm on camera. There we go. Back. Okay. It's weird with Zoom. When I go to share my screen, it automatically takes me off camera, which is fine. No one needs to be looking at my face more than already is the case. This is probably too much for a lot of people in many respects. But again, congrats. Big start to 2025 for the stable as a whole. And we'll look to keep it going, my friend, as we have Sandman for the Kentucky Derby. Bullard, by the way, in terms of like the big 3 year old picture, it sounds like Mike McCarthy was very bullish on Bullard as far as his work a few days ago. And we'll have another horse shipping to your part of the country, my friend, because he's going to make his next start in the Lexington.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Obviously, he has no Derby points now, and they only offer 20. So a win there still does not warrant a spot in that Derby starting gate. But I like that spot for him to kind of come back. You're going to get a lot of horses in that race that are looking to get those last handful of points that are probably just below or right on that cut line. And it'll be interesting to see how that field shapes up. But I would imagine he's going to be a tough customer in there.
Yeah, let's hope. I'm dying to see him on on his A game going 2 turns, which I don't think we got last time out against Barnes. Enjoy the weekend action. As far as the Santa Anita Derby, we don't have time to look at it, and it's only, I think, a 5 horse field. It's Baffert against journalism. Are you in the journalism camp off that? I mean, his race last time out. Oof, watching it live on my iPad, that was Fountain of Youth Day. So we were
Yeah,
just leaving Gulfstream. I mean, for me, he passed the visual test just in terms of his stride, that long reach stride that he's got. He covers a ton of ground. And then seeing, like, I was so down on Barnes for not winning, and then saw the race came up crazy fast. Are you a journalism fan?
100%. And I think you touched on it earlier. If he runs back to that again, I think he's no doubt going to come in and to Louisville and be the favorite for the Derby. But it'll be interesting because I think Barnes needs to win to get some points to basically get into the race. So it'll be interesting to see which Barnes shows up, if he's going to be able to flip the script on journalism there. But 5 horse field, but there's still a lot at stake for a handful of those horses. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But if I were a betting man, and I am. I would imagine that journalism runs a pretty big race and comes Louisville as a favorite.
And of course, you've got the 2-year-old champ in there, Citizen Bull,
Mhm.
who he wins every race. I'm still not won over. If you gave me the choice to have 2 horses moving forward, I'll take Barnes of the pair. I still think for me, Barnes might be, I'm talking just straight up raw talent. I don't like him going a mile and a quarter if he makes the Derby. I still think Barnes might be the most talented, just straight up like Mother Nature gifted ability of any of the 3-year-olds. But yeah, it should be a fascinating weekend. Enjoy Keeneland, my friend. I know we've got a lot of partners, maybe delayed a few days, but we should have a pretty big entourage rolling into that place Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And let's end this. I will be at Keeneland on Wednesday for just the second time in my life, and I've only been there once. I should probably never go back. It was with Flightline, a couple of years ago in the Breeders' Cup. So you can take me to dinner Wednesday night. How do you like that, buddy
Done
boy?
deal. A couple
All
of good
right, good.
spots in Lexington we can go to. I got a couple in
Of
mind.
course. So you're the man. Right in. They give Tommy the Sinatra table one, the Sinatra table. All right. We'll sign off. Good luck to all of our horses. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we'll catch you next week here on WPT Weekly.